here's what I learned on the journey. Sometimes the tapping in isn't always conscious, right? You know, like with the four stages of learning, we have conscious competence, unconscious incompetence, and you know what you don't know what you don't know. But I think all of us at a point in our lives, we did something that we felt connected to, even if we didn't deeply understand why we did or we were connected to that thing. Like, for example, I mean, you can't see it right now. I have this tattoo, this Ndrinka symbol tattoo on my back. And it's the one, it talks about perseverance and walking on fire. Like that's the whole analogy of someone, he who walks, it's called Hey Young, I'm totally messing it up, but it calls he who walks or she who walks on fire. And fast forward to, I would say in the last 2 years that I really created the space for me to read, and not just read, but pause. If something says, hey, here's an invitation for you, integrate into your day-to-day, I pause and I shut the book and I just stay on that chapter for a month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever it needed. And over the last 2 years, I realized how much I have been guided unconsciously by that ancestral wisdom. So much so that this symbol, and when I look at our African medicine wheel, which is highly influenced by the West African, the Dagara culture, I learned that our birth year is what determines your element. And we all have connections, regardless where you come from a cultural, ethnic, and perspective. We all have connections to fire, air, water, and earth. And in African cosmology, it's fire, water, earth, mineral, and nature. And then here I am fast forwarding and finding out that I am a fire element from the African medicine wheel, from the African cosmology perspective. So it was such a beautiful connection, which deepened my connection to, I'm like, why this particular symbol? I don't know why, but I was just drawn to it. So you know how Dr. Clarissa Pintes, she talks about in Women Who Walk with Wolves, she talks about trusting that intuition. It's a gift that has been given from birth. For me, life is a practice of trusting that intuition. No matter how deep or connected we are to that intuition and to that trust. And Ian Van Zandt talks a lot about that in her book, One Day My Soul Opened Up. She's like, we're never out of trust. We should stop saying we don't trust ourselves. And that really resonated with me because she said, trust is never I'm gone. It's always there. It might be broken in the sense of the expression of it, right? But it's always there. So if we walk around with the belief that trust is always there, that I'm always guided, it means that the things that I have around me, that ancestral connection is there. It's always there. But in this modern world that we live in right now, we don't always recognize the cultural cues. We don't always recognize it, especially when we look at the master narrative. The master narrative is not rooted in ancestral wisdom. It has moved to a very supremacy model, whether that's elitism, classism, all the other isms that we have. So understanding that ancestral wisdom guidance is always there for us and is always with us. And it's up to us now to create that space. And when I say space, I don't mean that you need 6 months to go and sit under the sun, in Tuscany or, or in Italy, or go to the Caribbean and sit on the beach for you to download it. Life gives us an opportunity every single day through our thoughts, our behavior, the people we surround ourselves with, the time we take to take care of ourselves, to dress ourselves. So many opportunities for us to impart that knowledge, or also to just deepen our connection to it because it's already there.
And you, as a fire walker, the one who walks on fire, and I think this is also why you and I get along so well, is we have an affinity and dance with fire. I know also the language you use around your passion is you're passionate for change, passion for change. And you use the line, inclusion is not a noun, but a verb, as part of your framing for the work you do around DE&I in the corporate spaces. And I'm wondering, how did you get to clarity? You said confusion is an invitation. So let's say from the place of confusion, which often we can be in, to such clarity on what you're passionate about, and then be able to practice that with people, organizations, companies. What was that process or journey like?
Yeah, such a rocky road, and one that can fuel your worry and doubt or anxiety, or it can fuel and nurture your curiosity, your compassion, and your courage. right? So for me, action was a differentiator. And no matter what road we're at, if we don't move, we don't get to create a new reality. We don't get to create that new change. So the first thing I would say is that you have to choose a path and go. Even the path you're not fully sure about, it's better than staying stuck where you are. So the first thing is just take a road and start walking. So for me, that was the beginning of it. And it started with like lunch and grow sessions at work and writing, encouraging notes to my staff and my team, and they sharing it with others. And then, things just took its own path. But even with the Leap to Equity, to be honest, in 2019, I remember I went home and I had this death rebirth, of Karlyn. Like I felt this really deep, when you're called and it's like, I need to go home. I need to be in St. Lucian soil. Like she was calling me. And I remember when I went home and I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this work anymore because it's very toxic in the sense that there's a lot of exclusion because we don't even name the systems in this work. Corporate Canada and the world at large, majority of them are still afraid. I mean, we've seen a shift, absolutely, but folks are still afraid of using the right language. And a lot of the individuals who dominate the DEI space happen to be white folks who continue to maintain the status quo as opposed to disrupting it. So for me, I felt like I was always walking on eggshells. It's like you cannot address the elephant in the room. You're talking about exclusion, but you can't name white body supremacy. You can't name cis heteronormative patriarchy. You can't name colonization. You can't name any of those systems. So I was like, I was done. And then, of course, we know what happened in 2020. And in 2020, when it happened, and it happened during a very rough time because my husband's father, unfortunately, he passed away from cancer, but he just got diagnosed, and it was very quick. Nobody knew. So this was happening, and then George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd happened. And I remember asking myself, do I have enough capacity to give? Because it was a lot of support, of course, on my husband's side, on the family side, but also my work became very demanding because now everybody wanted some sort of information and whatnot. But I had to take a step back and I asked myself, how can I add value? And I went to my ancestors and my guides and I said, what is the message you would like me to give or deliver in this moment in time? And I said, guide me. And this is where Leap to Equity came in, right? I'm like, how do I give people an EQ-based, emotional intelligence, brain-based framework that can help support and guide them? Because a lot of the leaders, they honestly don't know. They themselves, their leadership education isn't complete. But a lot of them are still in that unconscious incompetence perspective where they don't even know what they don't know. But we continue to hold those leaders on a pedestal without giving them an opportunity for them to practice grace and humility, right? Because in this DEI work, or what I call it Jedi work, because justice needs to be at the forefront, humility and grace needs to be at the center. And this is not giving anyone a pass, but acknowledging that you need this in order for you to create sustainable change. So LEAP became that conversation. It became the framework. It became a tool for change. And this is how I started leading the conversation throughout. And fast forward to where we are today, we're launching a certification program now to give folks in-house the support that they need. But what's really exciting about this new certification program that we're launching in terms of giving folks the support and the coaching and the training to continue those conversations within their organizations is that every organization who invests in our program, they automatically generate a scholarship for us to take a Black woman and take her through our ancestral leadership, emotional intelligence, and neuro-based coaching, leadership coaching.
Oh, I like that model.
Yeah. So going back to your question, how did that the confusion, that curiosity, and also part of my not confusion, but I would say part of the thing I was grappling with too was I felt like I failed, Black women and Black folks, because you do all those listening circles and sessions, but they go back into corporate. They don't have that psychological safety, right? Because everybody's on their learning journey. How can we better protect them? So this was my way of, again, taking that, going through it, and it's through the teaching, through the learning, through the feedback, from my clients and the people I work with, we came to that end conclusion of the Leap to Equity certification program, which is focused on creating Leap culture creators. So action, take that action in doubt, take that action and just start walking and trust that your guides, your ancestors, you know, your circle will show up and support you when you need it the most.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested in exploring your passion, check out my website, shilby.com. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Firestar Chat.